In this video, we are going to be discussing if standing dunks are overpowered on NBA 2K24. Now, y'all can see this is my first build. Crazy enough, I actually remade this build, okay? Don't worry, I'm not going to keep playing that build anymore. But you guys will see there is a slight difference, and you guys will still, or may still be surprised that driving dunk will still impact your standing dunk. Now, this first game, it's just the highlights. Y'all can see my stats. And I'm going up against someone that actually, you guys can see his interior defense wasn't the greatest. But he's going to get a lot of help in this game as well. But you always see how much bigger the standing dunk meter is. Now, in my opinion, if you use, I think I've talked about it in the past, if you don't use the meter, you're not going to be able to know the big difference between like a 90 or 85, for example. They do feel kind of similar, in my opinion anyway, if you don't use the meter. But once you start using the meter, you guys will see there is a big difference. Now, for me personally, I ain't complaining, right? Because the meter works in my favor. But then there are certain times I'm like, bruh, like, how is this meter so, like, big for no particular reason? But you guys will see this first game is just so pretty much just showcasing everything else. So going for the board, my center missed the shot right there. Y'all can see taking my time. And you guys can see, obviously, do you guys think it's so justified having that big of a bar? Now, you're probably thinking, well, fair, that was wide open. You guys will see that will get pretty contested over time, and the bar does not change. Now, what you guys will also realize when I show you guys the second game I play, the bar is significantly lower because the second game, the build I made actually has a much lower driving dunk. So this build, for example, you're watching has an 87 driving dunk. The one I'm going to show you after has an 80 driving dunk. And why I know it straight away, obviously it's just not a full reflection of the game as I hit the shot clock right there. It's not a full reflection of the game, but I noticed straight away that I wasn't able to get the same level of dunk meter. Like, you can see on this build, just see how big that bar is. Obviously, you've got takeover if it makes sense. But trust me, even when I don't have takeover, this build does go crazy with the meter. Like, dunk meter is almost impossible for me to miss. But when I played on my new build, again, I'm going to show like 1 or 2 clips of it. I'm like, bro, why is this meter so thin? Okay, like the meter almost barely didn't exist. Y'all can see right here. Look, even when I'm missing, right? Y'all can see every time the animation starts, even though the guy was stopping it, right? Y'all can still see how much bigger the green window is. Now, on my new build, what I noticed is every time I tried to go for a dunk, the meter was definitely not as big. It's almost like if like you're going for a driving dunk with an 80 driving dunk. That's what the meter felt like. It was so small. So for you guys out there, you probably have a 92 standing dunk. Like, you're probably thinking there are going to be certain times where you're like, fair, I can't get the same meter, like the same bar as your build sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Like, before I didn't know that. I just thought it was entirely based off, the standing dunk ratings. But I ain't gonna cap. It's not just the standing dunk rating. Your driving dunk also matters. Okay, I don't know why 2K is still putting that there, but right here, just sort of, obviously I've been so dominant in the paint. This guy was playing low. Just kind of knowing when to kind of dex players right there. I was trying to, obviously initially my intention was to roll, but I saw my player dropped very deep in the post, like in the paint. I was like, hell no, I'm just gonna back out. But once again, getting the ball. I mean, this guy tried to contest it right there. I was actually going for a meter dunk right there, if you guys are wondering, but the game just put me out of the animation, gave me a close shot instead. But yeah, so I noticed there was a big difference. Now, again, do you guys think it's justified having this, big of a meter? Now, some of you are probably gonna be like, yeah, but fair, you do have a high standing dunk. You should be able to make those right here. I was gonna dunk on them, but I was like, you know what? Let me give it to my teammate because I'm an unselfish teammate like that. But then, people can also argue, well, there are guys that have like a 93 point rating that are shooting wide open threes, and their bar is not as big as mine. You know what I'm saying? They're shooting wide opens too. So, for me personally, like, do I think 2K needs to tweak it down a little bit? Definitely. I mean, I sent this guy down. Look at this guy. I sent him down to the ground. But for me personally, as much as I hate to admit it, like, I'm like, okay, you know what? I think the standing dunk meter is just way too big. Now, I do like the idea of being able to force the dunk. You can see it again. It's almost, I ain't gonna lie, it's almost impossible to miss down there for whatever reason. I don't know what 2K is doing. Again, as soon as underneath the paint, the meter bar is just so massive. Like, it's almost impossible to miss those. And if you are missing those, that it is obviously on you. But now, what I'm gonna do is, we went crazy this game. The second game, I didn't go as crazy, but I'm still going to show you guys anyway what the big difference is. Now, again, bearing in mind, the builds are virtually identical. Now, what is the big difference between this build and the one I'm going to show you right now, which is this new build? that made I increased the interior defense on this build. It still doesn't have any block, if you're wondering, but I increased the interior defense on this build to a 74. I dropped the close shot down to like a 68, dropped the driving dunk down to an 80, and you can still see I still have the 92 standing dunk. I have a 92 rebound on this build. And I was still thinking, you know what, this is gonna feel the same. I just assumed that the ratings was entirely based off the standing dunk ratings. However, what I was doing as I was playing this game, and bearing in mind this is not my first game on this build, y'all can see you can see the average of my builds. I played about maybe 5 or 6 games on this build. Again, y'all can see without the meter right there, I didn't use it. You won't be able to notice the difference because you're like, cool. Now this is where I was starting to notice the difference. Y'all can see this was a smaller play on me, right? You'll see the meter there right there. You'll see the meter, the green bar in comparison to my previous build. Now you're probably thinking, Fear, did you max out this build? I did. I made sure I had gold precision dunk, gold fast switch, very similar to my other build, just to make sure the comparison are legit and the same. But I noticed that was just one example, but pretty much the entire games I've been playing on this build, I noticed it was very, very inconsistent. There are going to be certain times where the bar is going to be as big as my previous build. Pause. I dropped this guy right there. And then a lot of the times, I would say about 60 to 70% of the time, the bar is actually relatively thin. So if you're someone that has 92 standing dunk or 90 standing dunk, you're probably thinking, Fear, I don't get as much of a meter as you consistently. That is the reason why. It's most likely because your driving dunk is low, or maybe you have like an 80 or a 75 driving dunk for whatever reason, and that still impacts your standing dunk. And I don't know why 2K keeps doing that. The only logical explanation, I mean, even right there, I don't know how I mistimed that, but you'll see how much bigger the green window is. And this is my second build, by the way. But I don't know why what I was gonna say was, in terms of the ratings for the 80 and the 87, I think the big difference is if you look at some of the stats, right? I think with 87 driving dunk, you get stuff like silver posterizer, silver slithery, and I think those maybe impact your driving dunk ratings, or the bar rating, should I say? Obviously that makes sense. The higher posterizer, the bigger the meter should be. So yeah, I mean, this was pretty much the second game. So in my opinion, personally, I do think standing dunk meter are definitely overpowered. I think standing dunk without the meter are fine, because a lot of the time when you contact dunk someone, it's most likely because they're in a bad position. But when you're starting to force the dunks, I mean, there are certain times where I've dunked on like 3-4 dudes, and I'm like, how did I even get that? And the thing is, my bar never changes, regardless of who is there. Okay, the game can put me out of the animation, but you can see even in the first game where the game put me out of those animation, the green bar is still the same. It is still big. So do I think 2K needs to reduce it? Personally, I think the answer is yes, because it's not fair for us to be able to have this big of a bar, and then you have guys with a 93 pointer shooting with their shot meter, and the bar is still tiny. So I don't know. You all let me know what you guys think. Do you think 2K should keep it the same? Should they tweak it at least a little bit? But you guys know 2K. 2K don't do no little tweak. If they tweak it, they'll tweak it completely. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.